welcome to Let's Talk Diz, a show that gives you everything you need to know to help make your Disney vacation as magical as can be in just about 20 minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Coviello. With me each week is Disney Master Sandy from Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services. Sandy, how are you this week?
I am feeling magical.
Well, that's good, because it is our 300th episode, believe it or not, which is...
How many?
Which is crazy, right? 300. That's a large number. I think we deserve to pat each other on the back for that. We've indulged each other for 300 episodes.
I was just going to say, you put up with me for 6 years on this.
Well, and
wow.
vice versa. And so we kind of sat down and we were like, what could we do that was special? And we were looking at some things that were breaking in the world of Disney. And we decided to kind of package this 300 episode with the theme of it's a small world after all. And there's a number of reasons why, and we're going to break down kind of the history of that ride as well. But we're going to talk about how small of a world it is and how we've come to enjoy this show before we get into the ride.
It's been an incredible ride. I am so fortunate that you asked me to do this, that you indulge me week after week, that our listeners are here. And it is truly a small world. When I think about, I've told stories before of my Disney history and, riding in that station wagon from New Jersey down to Orlando when there was just California, which was the other side of the world when you have a father who doesn't fly.
Sure.
And Orlando, that was it. There was no ships. There was no Ulani. There was no Vero Beach. There was no Disneyland Paris. It was a small, small world. But over the last many, many years, Disney has really opened the world up for us. And, I'll say it again. 12 years ago, I didn't have a passport.
Which is wild, right? It's wild when you think about that. Yeah.
Wild. You could cruise without one. So I had done that, but I had never been to Europe or Central America. Canada, you didn't need a passport at the time. But to think in the last 12 years, and more specifically in the last 6, you've all journeyed with me to Portugal and Norway and Paris and New Zealand and Hawaii and Galapagos and so many different cruises. It's really been an honor to take this journey and hopefully make the world a little closer and smaller for all of you to see everything that Walt built. And if nothing else, let it inspire you how truly this one man's dream has changed so many of us. And I have to think, while they still pull out some old plans of Walt, and there are some ideas of his that are still coming to fruition, I have to think that he never saw the cruise line to have the number of ships that it has and be all over the world and Adventures by Disney. And so think yourself, take that dream, bring it to the public, and just keep growing it with incredible service and little bits of magic.
Very well said. But let's segue to the world's happiest cruise, right? Because that's kind of where we are intended to go here. It is a small world, and that's in a lot of ways very, very true when it comes to the magic of Disney. But to understand the history of that particular attraction, it's not just one that you have in Florida and in California, right? It has very, very deep roots in the Disney lore, so to speak. So let's start to break it down.
Well, I'm going to do something a little different tonight. I'm going to start by asking you all for a trivia question.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about It's a Small World, which made its debut at the 1964 World's Fair. That's when Walt brought this idea to the world. But he actually brought 2 other attractions that are still with us today. So before I put Jeff on the spot, anybody else without Googling know what they are?
Well, I was going to say, do you want an answer, or do we want to post this to the listeners for this week to respond to it?
We can put it up on social. That's a good plan.
All right, so we'll kind of leave it on the social, not to get myself off the hook in any way, but we'll leave it on social, and give us a response. So ask the question one more time for folks that weren't totally engaged.
Along with It's a Small World, what other 2 attractions that still exist today did Walt bring to the 1964 World's Fair?
All right. So the seed has been planted, folks. So if you
And I'll,
are
I'll give you a hint. If you're only a Walt Disney World person, you're not going to get it.
there you go. There you go. All right. So where do we want to go from there then? As introducing this particular attraction, it's a small world. Obviously, we begin at the World's Fair.
And, we're going to talk about it tonight. And clearly, it starts in the beginning or close to the beginning of Disney history. But it really is iconic. I know there are so many jokes out there about It's a Small World. They even make them themselves when you're on the Jungle Cruise about, your child being stuck there forever, or, they'll sing this song to you to give you that little earworm. But when you really think about this attraction, it is such an iconic piece of Disney history. So I'll start with what made me think of doing an episode about it, besides the icon part of it.
Sure.
It's that it was written by the Sherman Brothers. And just before Richard Sherman passed in 2024, he added a new line to the song based on where he felt the world was today. Sadly, I'm unsure why it did not publish when he wrote it. So it came out in July 2025, just 2 months ago after his death. But he added the line, Mother Earth unites us in heart and mind, and the love we give makes us humankind. Through our vast, wondrous land, when we stand hand in hand, it's a small world after all. So definitely, without being political, a thought that Americans and people around the world need to come together and treat each other better. And what a fitting spot to add a line like that in such an iconic song that is played every minute of the day because it is in so many parks around the world.
Well, and I think the line itself too, it speaks to taking care of not only each other, but taking care of the gift that's been given to us about the land and the sea that we share, right? So it speaks very, very true to the original message that ride has lived within all of us, even if that earworm is stuck in there and drives us crazy from from time to time. So, look, anytime you get the Sherman Brothers, Richard Sherman especially, involved in my life with something new, I'm in. I don't even have to know what it is. I'm excited for it. So it's really great that something so simple could be added to something that's so iconic and make it new again. I think that's really, really cool. I have not yet heard it, so I'm excited to hear it.
It is playing in the park, so you can hear it. Great work.
So listen, tell me about the folks that designed the ride, right? Because it's not just the song that we hear. There's obviously, when you look at that attraction and you ride through it, visually it's iconic. So talk to us about who designed it, who was a part of putting it together visually.
So the biggest thing that I think people think of when they think about It's a Small World is that colorful set, the geographic shapes, and that iconic look was done by Mary Blair. And again, phenomenal in Disney Imagineering history, so much so that when they redesigned the lobby of the Contemporary back about 4 years ago, they took an entire wall of their lobby to make a tribute to Mary Blair.
Yeah.
So,
and it's beautiful.
If you're over that way, maybe you're headed to Chef Mickey's or California Grill, it's definitely worth looking at that. And you see her art, and maybe the name means nothing to you at the moment,
Google
but
it.
I bet as soon as you see it, you go, "Oh, I know who that was."
Yeah, and Google it because it's worth a search.
She is really phenomenal. So she was an iconic part of the ride, but then it came to all of those scenes that we know that take us from country to country. Again, done by Mark Davis, an Imagineering list of feats like no other. And Mark actually sometimes got to cross paths with his wife, Imagineer Alice Davis. She did all of the costuming
Very cool.
So that made for a neat combination. And as you said earlier, it is the happiest cruise that ever sailed, is their tagline. I have to wonder whether Disney Cruise Line takes issue with that statement or not.
Well, they're the original, so it's tough to argue with the original, right? I mean, you got to
It
play second
is.
fiddle at some point.
So we have it out in Disneyland, then we brought it to Walt Disney World. Each spot that they open this attraction has some little bit of differences to it. 1983, I'm sorry, they brought it to Tokyo Disneyland. 1992, it opened in Paris. And then in 2008, it opened in Hong Kong.
So as you said, it's every second of every day our song is playing. It doesn't stop. It literally is the song that doesn't end. But I will say that there's definitely differences in each representation of the attraction. So let's start to break that down. What are some of the differences that we can see when we go from park to park where the attraction exists?
That's a great question. But before I answer you, I'm going to start with one similarity that was amazing to me.
Okay.
They have all used the same face mold. So I love that it has that continuity. And again, when you think about the timing, that was created for the 1964 World's Fair. So that face was created in the early 60s.
Sure.
But it's so perfect and so iconic
Yeah.
that when working on Hong Kong, probably 2005 or 6 to open in 2008, here it was almost 50 years later, but that face mold was still the thing that works right.
Well, and what's amazing to me with that is too, like, obviously, I think when you made those face molds, it was for an American audience, clearly, because you were making it for American theme parks. But it's traveled all over the world, right? So we have this in Asia and in Europe. You know, those are not necessarily the same target market. So the fact that it holds up, I think, even speaks truer to the intention of
They're
of
not
the
the same
attraction.
target market, but the concept, even though it changes a little bit from park to park, is all about being all around the world. So
Correct. Yeah.
in the US, we don't just have American dolls. We have them representing all
Right.
different countries around the world. Um, so I think that is very cool. They've done little things to differentiate those original scenes that Mark Davis came up with to make each one a little bit unique. Also, one of the big differences is Walt Disney World is the only one where we have an inside queue. Every place else, because the weather permits it more, allows for an outside queue of the ride. So to me, that also changes a little bit of the look and how they can do things because of that setup. So I think that's one of the unique differences. But then in 2009, one of the Imagineers at Disneyland decided it was time to add characters. And I talked about this in one of our shows way back when, that I wasn't sure how it would work and could it really be Disney. And I kind of went there expecting not to like it because I like original and purist and I don't do change well. And I wasn't sure that seeing Lilo and Stitch in the middle of the Hawaii scene was going to be the be all and end all. But I should not have been, but I was incredibly pleasantly surprised at how well they blend the characters in. They don't just stick the character in and it looks exactly like you would see in the movie. They blend it so it perfectly matches the dolls in that area, but the facial features really give it away and the specific hair. Some of them, it took me more than one ride to even find what I knew was inside. 1983, It's a Small World opened in Tokyo. They closed in 2018 to do a major refurbishment. And I think it was like the pull of the Imagineers here. They wanted to be the top dog. And so they added characters, but they added 40 characters
Holy
to
cow.
outdo Disneyland's 29.
That's not even close to that number. That's significantly higher.
No. And then the funny thing is, just afterwards, Hong Kong came along. They decided to refurbish, modernize theirs with Disney and Pixar characters. Oddly, they picked 38. I'm not sure how they came up with that number. Not to outdo Tokyo, but still to outdo Disneyland.
Sure.
But what Hong Kong actually holds the record for is they have more languages playing throughout their attraction than any place else in the world. They have over 25 different languages
Oh, wow.
while you're taking your ride.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Any specifics as far as like what some of these places have done as far as to set them apart, or any kind of like special overlays or anything like that that maybe that you think is worth mentioning?
So I think Tokyo again wanted to go for the gold here. Besides having the most dolls, they decided to do an overlay. And
Okay.
it was a Groot takeover of It's a Small World. Pretty phenomenal. Sadly, I was not able to get there and see it. I loved it from all the pictures I saw. I'm not sure why they went to this much effort and only had it open for 6 months. It has come and gone already, but Groot started right in the sign above the entrance. You can probably, if you've ever ridden It's a Small World, you can picture it's probably the second scene is London and all the soldiers there. Groot replaced one of the soldiers. Go a little further into the ride, you can probably picture it's off to your left. There's the scene from Italy and the gondola that kind of goes up and down in the water. And Groot was the gondolier with Rocket riding along. I mean, how incredible was this? I don't
That's
know where
cool.
they've stored all of the Groot pieces, but I think he needs to come out somewhere else around the world.
That's cool. All right, so I guess let's go back to. Is there any other fun fact that you think is worth mentioning when it comes to this attraction? Because you've given so many cool details, but I don't know if there's anything that you're missing that's a fun fact worth mentioning.
Well, I mentioned that everywhere but Walt Disney World, the queue is outside the ride.
Right.
And so they have a very broad facade, a great building. Again, if you're a Walt Disney World person and you've never been elsewhere, picture like being in Hollywood studios one night and looking at the Chinese theater and how they do displays on there.
Right.
All of the other parks in the world do shows on It's a Small World. And they're not Small World related. They may be Disney related. They may be holiday specific. Disneyland, last time I was there, actually had 2 different shows on it, depending what time of night you were there. So a great way to take some of these smaller parks and be able to give them something fun.
That's cool.
So, as I said, it leaves Walt Disney World out, but Walt Disney World has one thing that the others don't. If you've ever gone to Pinocchio's right next to It's a Small World, we love to go there for their flatbread. There is a window that looks into Small World. Maybe you've been riding the boat and you've looked up and waved to people. And if you ask if you don't see it, they often have really cool signs in the restaurant that you can hold up to the people below that say things like Bon Voyage
Yeah.
and have a magical sailing. So just a fun way to interact with an attraction that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world.
Very, very cool. All right, before we say goodbye and end our happiest cruise, is there anything we missed? Anything that you think folks need to know about this particular attraction, history or otherwise?
Just a cool little insider thing. I have had several opportunities to be backstage in the shop. And the shop is where they do a lot of the refurbishments. I've seen the hippos from Jungle Cruise at all times of the year. There's a horse from the carousel. And one of the cool things is that the specialist for the It's a Small World dolls is based in Orlando. So when there are refurbishments for It's a Small World, they actually pack up all the dolls and ship them over to Orlando for refurbishment. They get worked on in that shop and then shipped back out across the country or across the world. So Orlando may not have been the first park, but again, that beauty of space gives it some unique ties to all the other parks around the world.
Very, very cool. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time this week to break down this historic and iconic attraction. Remember our trivia question, folks, right? Sandy, give it to us one more time and we'll post it on the social. But we do have a trivia question for you. Respond to us on our our Facebook and our Instagram for the answer. But the question, of course, is...
This ride debuted at the 1964 World's Fair. It was one of 3 attractions that Walt brought that are still in the parks today. Name the other 2.
So if you are so moved to answer the question, please stand up virtually and place your answer in our comments. Sandy, thanks for taking the time this week. I appreciate it, and I will speak to you next week.
Have a great week.
And that's a wrap this week on Let's Talk Diz. If anyone you know could benefit from this or any show, please share, have them like, and subscribe. And don't forget to reach out to the folks at Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services for any Disney destination planning. Make it a great week, and as always, keep making